Today I'm going to tell you a movie that got 9.0 points on Mubin. This is a film that takes away a lot of tears about family affection, break box office records in some countries like Korea, Japan, Singapore. Someone said, the film reflects a part of our embarrassing childhood. What is it about in the past that makes us ashamed? Then we have to go back to the childhood of our protagonist. Sang-woo boy is 7 years old, his parents have just divorced. Because of his busy work, his mother sent the boy to his hometown for his grandmother to take care of. A boy grew up on a prosperous street land, will never enjoy the country life. Sitting on the bus, seeing the countryside auntie with a stench of stench, he struggled uneasily, then he got spanked by his mother. This place is a poor, backward country, people mainly grow vegetables to survive. There was only one small grocery store, but it was also very shabby. The roof leaks, the walls are cracked, and the boy's grandmother, both old and ugly, the back is cuffed to a 90-degree angle. Also a deaf old woman, mother and grandmother talked to each other in the room, and the boy was sulked outside. Then he peed on his grandmother's only shoes. His grandmother was like any other abandoned old woman in the village, day in and day out alone. No one wants to come back. Even if you come back, you will only say a few sentences and then go. The grandmother saw Sang-woo gently stroking the boy's head, but he was dismissed, expression of disgust. Sang-woo's mother also left shortly after. Looking at grandchildren, your face looks sullen. Grandmother wants to take his hand home, but he brushed his hand, even raised his hand to beat his grandmother. Seeing that my grandson hates me like that, grandmother is not angry at all. She just bowed and then gave up. Sang-woo in the back, whispering the sentence, old lady slow. Grandmother did not say anything, so Sang-woo continued cursing, idiot, dumb old lady, deaf old lady. Grandmother silently turned around, gently signaled, follow her. She was afraid her nephew did not know the way home. Along the way, the grandmother took a step forward and looked back. She was afraid Sang-woo slipped down the mountain. That night, she cooked rice for Sang-woo to eat. Everything is criticized by Sang-woo, taking her back to her bowl. So, the grandmother took him some precious candies that she kept carefully for so long, but did not get back the excitement of the grandchild. A grandmother, a mother who spends her whole life taking care of her children and grandchildren. How should children and grandchildren treat her? But it's a pity. Unexpectedly, the offspring would turn their backs on her. Grandmother silently stubbornly looked at her grandchild, but in her eyes, she was filled with love and concern. That night, Sang-woo wanted to go to the toilet but was scared, so the grandmother was squatting again with her bare feet beside him. Roller skates, game machines, robots. That is the world of the city. Outdoor toilets, cockroaches, cattle. That is the world of the countryside. Sang-woo is typical for city people. Grandmother is typical for rural people. The boy hates his grandmother. Grandmother, though suffering, still resigned. The movie has a scene like this. Grandmother and Sang-woo, two people walking on the same road, should have gone home together, but they walked a bit apart, seemingly two strangers, day by day, but Sang-woo did not bother to tell her any questions. Actually, normally his mother just kept hitting him. He even locked him up at home alone. The better the grandmother treats him, the more stubborn he will be. But no matter how stubborn Sang-woo is, Grandma is also very tolerant of him. One day, Sang-woo is tired of playing with toys, rolling on the floor to sleep. She saw that, sit down. Silently gather the boys' toys together, attentively assemble to the correct position. The clumsy grandmother tries to enter her nephew's world, but she installs forever, not finished fitting forever, so the grandmother quietly left the toy to the old place. At night, because her eyes were blurry, her grandmother wanted to ask Sang-woo to thread the needle. Sang-woo pretends to play games, not paying attention. After that, she frowned to help her. Your game console is out of battery, so he frantically asked her for money to buy batteries. But grandma has no money, can only show you my empty money bag. She motioned to apologize to him, but Sang-woo still refused. He insisted on asking her forever. Still so angry, pushed her against the cliff. Grandmother was not angry, still quietly washing clothes for Sang-woo. The children's evil lies in their carelessness. Her love and tolerance for him, he considered not see. Because the battery cannot be purchased, the boy broke the peed pot that his grandmother had to rub every day, throw away her only shoes, let her walk barefoot across the mountain road. He stayed at home writing curses and cursing her on the ceiling, all day just messing. By the time his grandmother slept, he stole her hairpin, brought to sell in exchange for money to buy batteries, so she had to use a spoon to fix her hair. Relationship is always the emotional thing we most easily take lightly. No matter how disruptive Sang-woo is, his grandmother doesn't blame him. Because of stealing from her, Sang-woo did not dare to go home. Grandmother put on a cane, anxiously searched. Fortunately, Sang-woo was brought home by a kind old man. The childhood of many people certainly have been careless, treating her grandparents coldly like that. We don't have the patience to care about their feelings, not having the patience to listen and understand what they've been through. Until we grow up, we realize emotions that we previously ignored were so full of love, and only then, we just know how we unintentionally hurt them. And then that day also comes, but when you want to apologize to them, it's not in time. There is such a topic online. Dollars, how are your feelings like? In it, there is a comment that replied, before his death, I originally intended to visit him, but because I was afraid to go out, I stopped going. The next day, grandfather passed away because of heart disease. After the funeral was over, I went to his house. Seeing that the dining table is already exhausted, I cried without a word. She speaks, this is the meal I want to eat the most of my life. But it was a meal that I would never eat again. One day, Sang-woo wants to eat KFC. He has used every possible way to describe his KFC food. Grandmother thought he wanted to eat chicken, so in the rain, come a long way to bring you a live chicken. The first thing when she got home, was not to change her wet clothes. It was to fix the pillow for my nephew. Finished boiled chicken, she broke in the thigh. Sang-woo discovered that it was not a KFC chicken, crying loudly. He even flipped his rice bowl, then shouted, you cheater, you don't understand anything. Seeing his nephew angry, grandmother did not know what to do but signal, I'm sorry, an austere grandmother. After that, he picked up every grain of rice scattered on the ground and put it in his bowl. The next day, the grandmother got sick, probably due to guilt, or perhaps it was a feeling that was slowly emerging inside. The boy covered her with a blanket, put a towel over her forehead. He also has a group of firewood to cook rice. A boy, disgusted with rural life, is helping her to wash clothes, thread the needle. He also learned how to accompany her to the town selling melons. That was when he discovered, a grandmother did not know, for sale. It turns out that selling is so hard. A melon cannot be sold either, even though I didn't earn any money all day, but she still takes Sang-woo to eat noodles. The grandmother lived her whole life in poverty, saving her whole life, but they will never save with their descendants. After eating noodles, the grandmother bought Sang-woo a new pair of shoes. Perhaps this is the so-called grandmother's love. One side spends a lot, the other is heavily indebted. Grandmother always gives Sang-woo the best, but Sang-woo always threw her back the most accidentally. Once because he didn't want to lose face with his friends, Sang-woo left her and went home by himself. The grandmother had to walk abruptly to go home. The mountain road is very long. Grandma is very slow. While waiting for her, Sang-woo realized that he was wrong. He actively carried her bag. Stealthily put the chocolate bar she bought herself into her pocket. For being a deaf and dumb person, so she just used her hand to rub her chest, signaling her apology. She is too humble, she apologizes. Cooking rice does not taste me. I'm sorry. Grandmother cut my hair broken. I'm sorry. Even Sang-woo pushes the chicken that she worked hard to cook. Stealing her hairpin, intentionally leaving her at the bus stop, but she always blamed herself. Why does he make his nephew hate that? Why do not I know how to do KFC? Why isn't cutting my hair pretty? Outsiders often say, the beloved always has support, and is not afraid of anything. Before the unconditional love of adults, children often stubbornly demand pampering. Sang-woo threw away the shoes she just bought to give away, said, home season. Wearing a pair of shoes that do not fit on the mountain, the result of bruising limbs, he cried all the way home. Grandmother saw that, hurried over to pat him. To comfort the boy, she bought him a gaming battery. Sang-woo just saw the more fierce crying. This time he cried, we all understand. In his heart, Sang-woo understood her boundless love. Only he cannot say thank you. The boy thinks that, love, just to keep in mind is enough. As a result, I could not speak, could not answer her in time. Then he had to follow his mother to the city. Before breaking up, Sang-woo had already threaded her a lot of needles. Also taught her to write. This is the word, sick, this is, I miss you. Because I don't have a phone, I'll write to you. Grandma, if you are sick, ask someone to bring this letter to your place, I will definitely come visit. Grandmother sat on one side scratching her head. They all know that, when we break up, we don't know when we can meet again. And the grandmother is, very old and weak. Human life has things that cannot be returned. If we are loved too pampered, we will not know how to appreciate it. Because I don't understand the story. There are even times when it comes to words, hurting those who love us. Because of the fear of shame, even words of love or apology, can never say. But when people love you unconditionally, slowly leaving you, you will not be able to regret it anymore. Not only late, but also in vain. Like the boy in the movie. Before breaking up, I understood her love for her, but how many opportunities does the boy have to repay that love? Do not wait until the time to break up, to remember love and repayment. Promise me, by the time it's not too late, call those who love you. Come about them.